This episode has been brought to you by JustNForm.com. If you're tired of being censored, tired of having your data stolen and sold, go to JustNForm.com, a social media site where all voices are welcome.
Progressives have grown a little bit jaded, and can you really blame us, right? Think about it. I mean, after the election in 2016, Bernie Sanders pretended as if Russiagate had anything to do with him being cheated. Really, when he said that, he was claiming that our efforts, our dollars, our votes wasn't enough. And mind you, people put everything on the line to see Bernie Sanders in office. So when he propagated Russiagate, and not only did he propagate Russiagate, but he refused to call it election fraud and election rigging, although his wife did. I'm not going to lie. His wife made a big deal about it, saying that they couldn't say anything about it because they would be painted as sore losers, which is indeed true. But still, you can't blame progressives for being jaded by Bernie Sanders himself and his reactions. Furthermore, we can look at Andrew Gillum. Andrew Gillum ran his primary on Medicare for All, pretending as if he was going to sweep Florida with a progressive policy overhaul. And it turned out that was never really the case. He used Bernie Sanders, used progressive votes to get past the Democratic primary election, and then as soon as he had the opportunity to switch, it didn't even take a day. He dropped the Medicare for All name, started talking about what they always say. We want to give access to healthcare, whatever the hell that means. Everybody has access to healthcare right now. That don't mean you can afford what access costs. So, but he betrayed us. Hell, even the first Native American woman who ran on being a progressive also, she got into Congress. Everyone was really excited, and it turned out she was never on our side. She was a neoliberal as well. Later, she had progressive rhetoric on her website in the beginning of her campaign, and later on, the closer she got to the election being concluded, she, of course, switched her rhetoric as well. So you can imagine why people were a little bit more than skeptical about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Couldn't at the time blame them for that either, especially if you don't know her background, which we'll dig into for a little bit while we're doing this video. They're like, she got promoted by the establishment. At least that's that's the optics of it, even though that's not really what happened. But people believe from a distance that she got promoted by the establishment too much, too quickly. They believe that she was quote unquote Obama 2.0. They think that she was that she was only allowed to be Crowley because she was on their team. And to be honest with you, once again, based off of what we know historically about politics, that is generally what happens, right? That's generally what takes place. Is that the only time quote unquote young and up and coming Democratic superstar is allowed to win is when they are the anointed one. Very similar to what we see with Kamala Harris. So are people correct for being jaded? Yes. However, I will say this. There are many people who owe Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a legitimate apology. Because it's one thing when you critique someone, which I've done. I've critiqued her several times. I critiqued her when she said that we should tell people to vote for Andrew Cuomo rather than saying, well, hold on. Why are we ignoring all the election rigging that took place in New York during that primary instead of just saying, let's vote for Andrew Cuomo? Right? Oh, it's over, so let's just move on. No, that's how we have ended up in this problem to begin with, and I critiqued her on that. When she said that we should vote for Democrats across the board rather than judging individually. I critiqued her on that, considering that she was the person who said, we should never do that. Now, why am I saying this? Because it's one thing to critique someone. It is one thing to lob these insults, really, these attacks, saying that she was always establishment without really any claim as to why. Because she said one thing they don't like, even though she's growing, and even though she's learning, and even though she's 29 years old, has never been involved in politics, was only an activist. She's only an activist. Activists are not necessarily politicians. Most activists are single issue activists, maybe one or two issues, but that doesn't mean they understand how politics work and how to present themselves when trying to get a mandate the way that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has done. And the reason I mention this is because people, like I said, they owe her an apology. Why? Because she is so much on our sides that the Democrats have more or less threatened to exile her. Let's look at this article from Politico. Exasperated Democrats try to rein in Ocasio-Cortez. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is already making enemies in the House Democratic caucus. Ooh. But people want to claim that she is one of them, that she's the anointed one, that she is Obama 2.0. Let's continue. And some of its members are mounting an operation to bring the anti-establishment Democratic Socialists with 2.2 million Twitter followers into the fold. The effort, described by nearly 20 lawmakers and aides, is part carrot, part stick. Some lawmakers with ties to Ocasio-Cortez are hoping to coax her into using her star power to unite Democrats and turn her fire on Republicans. Others simultaneously warn Ocasio-Cortez is destined for a lonely, ineffectual career in Congress if she continues to treat her own party as the enemy. Emmanuel Cleaver, representative from Montana, says, "I'm sure Miss Cortez means well, but there's almost an outstanding rule: don't attack your own people. We just don't need that type of sniping in our Democratic caucus." Well, that's where I think Mr. Cleaver gets it wrong. He's right about one thing. You're not supposed to attack your own people. But you're wrong in assuming that you are part of Ocasio-Cortez's people. See, AOC made it very clear in the beginning that she was representing us, not the Democratic Party. In fact, that ad where she made that, once again, perfectly clear, crystal clear, was her most viral video, and that's what gained her all of her last-minute donations, all of her last-minute appearances, and that last-minute push to get the job done. She made that very clear. And so this is just a classic Democratic Party, us versus them, Democrat versus Republican, binary, partisan politics. As in, don't worry about what the people want. You're in our club now. Make sure that our club is successful rather than making sure the people who elected us to this club are represented correctly. Let's continue. The incumbent Democrats are most annoyed by Ocasio-Cortez's threat. This is the most important part of this entire conversation. The incumbent Democrats are most annoyed by Ocasio-Cortez's threat to back primary opponents against members of their ranks she deems too moderate. But their frustration goes beyond that. Democratic leaders are upset that she railed against her new set of House rules on Twitter the first week of new Congress. Rank and files are peeved that there is a grassroots movement to try to win her a top committee post they feel she doesn't deserve. Many of you have unfairly not critiqued but attacked Ocasio-Cortez. You have been unwittingly, I hope, attacking an ally when the entire time she's been on your side. Listen, they're mad because she's saying, if you won't get these progressive policies done, I will use these 2.2 million followers I have to get you out. What else do you want from her? She's using her mandate in the way that we had hoped she would use it. In other words, if you are not progressive, we're going to make sure progressives take over Congress. Because I do understand right now that my vote is not as important. because I can't, let's be honest, it's 3 or 4 or 5 progressives, maybe max. This really, I would consider 3, 2.5, because I don't know if I consider Ro Khanna progressive as much as a careerist progressive, as he's going to do whatever it takes to get farthest, and he knows that the progressive way in California is the way to do that. But we'll go with 2.5 progressives in Congress right now, because remember, only 2.5 voted against pay-go. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Tulsi Gabbard, Ro Khanna, 0.5. That's a 0.5, just letting you know. So her vote doesn't matter as much, but this mandate that she has, the fact that the cameras won't leave her alone. Yes, the establishment media constantly critiques her. But y'all see as her getting, she's getting all this TV prowess. No, she is just finessing them because they try and set her up. That's what people don't see when they see these interviews. They get little clips where she's standing tall, but they don't see the traps that they try to put Ocasio-Cortez in. She has just learned after being duped a few times by the media. I want to be very clear about that because she was duped a few times by the media. She has finally learned to finesse the media. Instead of allowing them to co-opt her, she has learned to co-opt them. And clearly, she's one of us. And she always has been. Despite her slip-ups, despite her missteps, she has always been one of us. And the Democrats know that, which is why they're so upset. And they're threatening her. I would love to hear your thoughts about this, so make sure you like the video and leave a comment below. Shout out to Ocasio-Cortez. Keep fighting. If you're making enemies with the Democrats, and I know damn well that you are on our side. And we appreciate that effort. I know it gets stressful being in there, and it almost feels like you're in Washington by yourself at times. But let's be very clear about something. You have our support, and we will continue to back you as long as you keep being a tool for the people rather than a tool of the establishment. Thank you for giving us that voice. Thanks for watching that segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. You can donate to our Patreon and keep helping the network grow by clicking on the link in the description below. And also, make sure you join us at JustNForm.com. And finally, make sure you subscribe to us on Roku and be part of the very first independent news network on Roku TV. But more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.